back I posted a trailer for a title called The First Templar, and a majority of the comments left on the video touched on how similar it looked to Assassin's Creed. Plus, it has the word Templar in it, which had some obvious bias against the title from the start because those were the bad guys in the AAA title. I have to assume that these comments were coming from a younger crowd who simply didn't know that the Templar Knights actually existed in the 13th century and that they were fictionally portrayed in Assassin's Creed. That said, the First Templar is actually not that similar to Assassin's Creed, and I'll show that to you in a second. Kalypso Media shipped me an early copy of this title that was roughly 80% complete, meaning it didn't contain any voice acting, cutscenes, all of the content, or just polish in general. Now, I played this for about 3 hours and no longer simply because I didn't want to ruin my experience with the finished product when it's released later this quarter. Created by Bulgarian developer Haemimont Games, and pardon my potential butchering of their name, for the Xbox 360 and PC, here's a gameplay preview of The First Templar. From the press sheet that came with the game, The First Templar is a co-op action role-playing game that portrays a dark and gritty view of the late 13th century, where old friends become enemies, corruption spreads throughout the church, and fallen knights oppress the weak and renounce their oaths. The story of the game was somewhat sketchy in the build that I received, as it didn't yet all flow together, which may simply be due to the lack of voice acting, timing with the speech, and just overall presentation. From what I gathered, you play as Celian and Roland, a few Templar knights tasked with retrieving the Holy Grail and dealing with the Inquisition, and later as Celian and Marie, a feisty roguelike character. All three characters have different playstyles, as Celian fights with a sword and board, Roland fights with a two-hander, and Marie wields daggers. The game supports 2 players with jump-in, jump-out co-op, otherwise you're in control of both characters at once and can switch between the two on the fly. This is important as some characters are better at certain tasks than others, and some puzzles that you'll need to solve actually require you to work together, say flipping a switch while the other runs off to flip another. RPG elements are thrown into the mix as your characters earn experience from their kills, which can be spent in a skill tree, which unlocks things like additional moves, buffs that make your attack stronger, and additional health and zeal. Zeal is represented by the little blue balls under the health bars, and might be thought of as stamina or mana, which certain moves require a certain amount of zeal before they can be executed. If your partner loses all of their health, they'll be knocked out and will die for good in a given amount of time unless you run over and revive them, which again costs a bubble of zeal. Zeal is replenished over time in combat, and certain perks in the skill trees can aid you in building this up quicker. There are actually a lot of gameplay elements in the First Templar beyond simply fighting. One mission has you shooting trebuchets at enemies invading a city, some utilize a stealth mechanic that allows you to sneak up and insta-gib enemies, and others have you escorting and defending a valuable character of interest. Pressing the Alt key makes your characters look around, which can reveal things like bear traps, hidden trails, or a plethora of other types of deadly traps. Sometimes you may stumble across a tip that leads you to a treasure chest as well, which can give you extra health or zeal for the remainder of the level, free experience points, or even pieces of costumes. Once you collect all the pieces, you may change into them, though I wasn't able to collect enough to do this in my playtime. Each mission has a series of objectives that are to be completed before moving on, and each also has some bonus objectives, though I didn't really see what the advantage was for completing these. While you can venture off on little side paths here and there, for the most part the levels that I played were pretty linear. There aren't any side quests or anything like that. You have an objective per level and that's it. Some levels even have boss characters, including a big ogre-looking fat dude, which keeps the combat fresh and challenging as they have added health and more powerful attacks. Overall, I had a pretty good time playing the First Templar this weekend. It was a little tough to understand what was going on as it seemed to jump around a bit and didn't have proper voice acting. In my build, the graphics didn't seem quite finished yet as there were drops in frame rates at times, even on my nice gaming rig, and it looked to be missing something like maybe the shadows or additional textures. But there are still a few months until release, so I'd say everything looks to be in pretty good shape. It just needs a little polish, and I'd say the developers have a nice title on their hands. I played for a little over 3 hours and got about a quarter through the game, I believe, and just with that little game time, I'm pretty excited to see the finished product. Does this look like a good game to you? Leave your questions and comments below. Check out the full write-up and screenshots over at ZeitgeistGameReview.com. Stay up to date by following me on Twitter and Facebook, and make sure to check out all of the other great gaming and entertainment on the Game Station. Don't forget to subscribe and press the thumbs up button. Thanks for watching.